And you've just heard Long Hope, the new single from Only a Ghost. And I'm delighted to be joined by Louise and Bob, who are Only a Ghost. Hello, both.
Hello.
Hi.
So what can you tell us about Long Hope? Because it's a very interesting story behind it.
Ooh, it's a very long story as well. It's difficult to know what to select, but I think the short version would be that my father died when I was 21, and there were all sorts of things I didn't get to ask him. So he was a poet, and I went looking for him in his poems, and I found this poem, Long Hope, and I found it very moving. And I started to look into what happened, why it had moved, to try and find out why it had moved him so much. And the story was just absolutely astounding. It was an incredible story of bravery and human commitment and love and sacrifice. It was just immense. Mm-hmm. And so I went rushing into Bob the next day and said, here's this idea for a song. And, you know, Bob's been at sea in his working life, so it immediately struck a chord with him. And that was it. We embarked on this, what turned out to be a huge project. We had no idea what we were taking on. But yeah, once the song got written, it took a long time, but a friend of ours had a friend up in Orkney and they wanted to send them the song. And to cut a long story short, the song found its way to the people in the Long Hope lifeboat community. Right. And they decided to use it in their 50th commemoration event, which was a huge honor for us. We were really touched by that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, is that the way that you work this song? Is it typical of how you work, in that you have a song idea and then, Bob, it's handed over to you? Is it different every time?
It's pretty much different every time. It's evolving all the time, and COVID changed things a lot for the way we work, when we couldn't work together, when we couldn't really be in the same room, and so things were more difficult. So we were forced to work slightly different. But each song is different. Everyone is different. Sometimes it's a lyric that will inspire me, and sometimes it's an idea that will inspire Louise.
Yeah, sometimes Bob comes up with a tune, and when I hear it, I just get an image in my mind. I mean, he's coming up with tunes all the time. I mean, he's shedding song ideas constantly. And sometimes one will just spark a visual image in me that and I don't even know what it means, but then we write the lyrics around that, and it always ends up tapping into something that is quite meaningful for us. Yeah, but they do arrive in all sorts of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So going back to Long Hope, what were the challenges? And I think, Louise, you've mentioned responsibilities about writing about real events.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were so carried away with our own passion initially. We didn't really realize the implications, but you know, once we started writing it, we started to realize, well, the living relatives of the people who were lost on that boat are going to hear this song. Mm-hmm. And that felt like a huge responsibility. Mm-hmm. and we wanted to respect their feelings and their traditions and the memory of their lost loved ones. So that kind of weighed heavily on us. Mm-hmm. All through the writing. It was always there.
And because it's such a big story, that's why it ends up as such a long song. Because if you edit a song in something of that importance, the detail is lost. So then it was really important to us that all the detail was there. The whole story was there, and the individuals were mentioned.
It's interesting. I spoke to the writer Donald S. Murray, who wrote the book As the Women Lay Dreaming, about the Ayalari disaster, and he was saying the same kind of things, you know, that one, you wanted to get it right, and you wanted to make sure that the proper detail was in there, you know. So it was different, say, from editing another novel which might not have that side to it. So I guess with the song, it's not this, you might write a different song and say that could be shorter or whatever, but this time you had to take your time.
That's exactly what happened. We actually had a discussion at one point, you know, this song's never going to get radio play because it's so long. And we thought, well, should we cut some of it? And we went through it, and there just was nothing that we were willing to cut, because that it's kind of, it's not our story.
Yeah.
If it was something about ourselves, then we would have a free hand, but it's not our story.
And you mentioned, Louise, that it was inspired by your dad's poem. Now, this is a slight aside, but was your dad the Bill McCorkindale who wrote School Friend?
Yes.
Well, I remember reading it in a Glasgow anthology of Glasgow poetry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, yes, that's the man, yeah.
That's I studied Scottish literature, so I was often, going through lots of different anthologies and things like that, and I do remember that clearly.
Oh, I'm so delighted that you've read some of his stuff. That's great.
So how did Only a Ghost come about?
Accidentally.
Yeah. At work we had a band, really. It was someone else's idea. They went around rifling through who might be musicians, who might be interested, and I was asked. And then I think it was a meeting that we were setting up for, and Louise she was going to be in the meeting later on, and I said, "Oh, Louise, good. What do you play, Louise?" And it was really only light-hearted. She said, "Oh, I play ukulele, so that'll do." So I think over that couple of weeks we got together, and so it was just really guys from work. And that band changed as well as there are short-term people come to work at Newton D. So yeah, so it just depended who was around. So that was the start of the Newton D band, and then we started writing. And then we eventually wrote for the band, and we did all our own stuff.
Right.
And then...
Well, it was actually Bob. He's being modest. It was Bob that started it. He said one day, "I'm fed up doing covers. Does anyone fancy writing?" And that's how it started.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, and then I think it's just, again, things change because things are never steady at work, because people come and people go, and people have other commitments, and so we were just really left with the two of us. So we just kept writing. We'd been writing, and it was quite, it was good, because we'd always been writing for the band, and suddenly we could write for Bob and Louise. So things changed again.
Yeah, that was quite a realization. Yeah. It was a very good discipline writing for the band.
Yeah.
We learned an awful lot from that. And we were writing to perform at our local folk club. So that was a tremendous framework in which to kind of, cut our teeth, wasn't it? But Bob stood in my office at work and swore blind that I would never have to perform, because that was my condition on joining the sessions. I'll join the music sessions in the evenings, but I'm never going to perform. "Oh, you'll never have to perform," he said. No, you'll never have to perform. Yeah. See how that went.
Your checks in the post.
But you clearly found that you worked together well. That relationship, was that quickly? Did you discover that quickly?
Yeah, I think it's really about chemistry, isn't it? Really. Yeah. And I think you've got to cover it in songwriting and producing and getting to an end result. You've got to cover a lot of disciplines. So we both managed to cover the whole. Between us, we managed to get through everything that's required to get stuff out.
There's a lovely description of your songs, if I can quote it here. A little bit dark, a little bit hopeful, a little bit sexy, a little bit camp. That's right, yeah. It's such a great combination. Do you recognise yourselves in that description of your music?
Yes, it really struck a chord. I thought, oh wow, that really, that's the feeling,
Because we don't write in any specific style, and we don't write off styles or genres. We just write what really we like. And I think as artists, if you can write what you like, and if other people enjoy it, it's great. But but we have to really enjoy what we're doing and be honest to ourselves.
That's interesting, but I think there is a kind of Only a Ghost feel to your music and songs, definitely.
Yeah, I think and it's really pleasing, actually. I think as a musician, I've never really been into cover versions, and I've never sat down and worked out riffs upon riffs of other guitarists. I've always really tried to do my own thing, really, and be myself. So, and it's really good to have the opportunity now with Louise that we're right and be ourselves. And
yeah, it's a luxury of being an amateurs. We can just do whatever we fancy doing. And I have to say, Jeremy at Stereogram has been fantastic. He's very supportive of that. He's wonderful to work with.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was another change to the band, because initially it was Bob and Louise, and we really were writers. We saw ourselves as writers, and we're trying maybe we'll put some demos together. Maybe someone would be interested, and we can try and be songwriters, or be known as songwriters. And then Stereogram came along, and that was just really an off chance. And I mean, I never thought for a minute we would be signed to a label. Really, not for a minute. So that changed. Then we became only, and Jeremy said, "Oh, you can't be Bob and Louise." So I went, "Oh,
it's boring." He said, "Bob and Louise is boring."
so and I think finding a name was really harder than any song I've ever had to write. It's really tough.
With A4 sheets.
I think with a thousand names we came up with. And they were either gone or it's some random band in the Philippines that had the names. So it was actually it was from a song lyric.
Yeah, it's a line from one of our songs.
But then suddenly there was a liberation in writing for Only a Ghost. And we actually, is that an Only a Ghost song? Yeah, it really is an Only a Ghost. So it's kind of spurred us on to write maybe slightly differently.
So it's all accidental.
But essentially, so you do write songs, and then do you think, well, that's not an Only a Ghost song, that might go somewhere else, but when you know it's an Only a Ghost song, you kind of know.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's probably. I think that's about right. But most songs we write tend to be Only a Ghost songs, because I think the inherent sound is us. It's the very strong vocal, and the lyrics, strong lyrics, and we try not overcomplicate the music too much.
Yeah,
I think when we look back in our back catalogue, everything we've written from the start, the songs that have fallen by the wayside were possibly experimental, or we were exploring a new style or a new genre. The ones that really stick, I mean, we can go right back to the very first song we wrote, and that was definitely an Only a Ghost song.
Yeah.
So we can go right back, the kind of, and I think Only a Ghost songs are the ones that both we have a deep connection with. Yeah. So there's some that maybe we loved the music, but maybe the lyrics weren't quite right, or something. It was a good enough song, but good enough is not something that we really connect with deeply. So the ones that make it as Only Ghost songs are the ones that we really care about. I think that's what makes an Only Ghost song.
Yeah, I think that's a good assumption.
And going back to Stereogram, what I like about that label in particular is that every band that they sign feels like a Stereogram band. There's some, it's a kind of little mark of quality, I always think. Jeremy's got very good taste, and picks some really good people.
Yeah, I think we have, unfortunately, because of lockdown, I think we were signed, I think last February or something. Because of lockdown, we haven't even really met Jeremy.
Yeah, not in
person. So it's unusual. It's unusual times, but it still works really well. It's very encouraging, really great to work for, and an honor to be a part of the Stereogram stable.
Yeah, it's like joining a Stereogram family. It was amazing. It was a wonderful feeling.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, you're saying that you signed during lockdown, or was it just before maybe? Did you say last February?
Yeah, last February. So it was right in the middle, yeah.
So are there plans to take Only a Ghost on the road or anything like that? Are you still not going to perform? Are you still?
Still sticking to that. Well, performing's, it's difficult. We both have home commitments, day jobs. I think what's happening in music at the moment, the way you can just put a video online, I think that could be really
That would be-
liberating for people like us,
Yeah.
because we can't pack up and go on the road. That's just not possible at the stage we're at in our lives with what's going on around us.
Yeah.
So we're quite inspired by seeing some of these indie artists, for example, who put their stuff online in the form of videos. So I think that's more
I
likely.
think that's probably the next.
Yeah, we are exploring that. Yeah.
I mean, we explored it before, and then it came to a time where you couldn't visit people's houses, so you couldn't read. So it just made things too difficult. And I think we've just been pressing on, recording and writing, and still writing and recording. But I think it'll be organic if we do. It'll be something that we can't help doing. We feel
It'll be accidental, like everything else.
Like everything else, it'll be part
It'll just
of
happen.
part of a natural progression.
Yeah.
Only a ghost.
It does seem that the music you make it feels natural. It feels, if I say effortless, and I know there's effort going into it, but that's the way that it kind of, you listen to it. I think it's been an absolute treat to talk to both of you. Thanks so much for taking the time to do that.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks. It's wonderful to meet you, and thanks for having us on.
Thank you, Ali.
No problem at all. And this is Only a Ghost and My Secret Ways.